Thank you so much, Chairman Buckley, for inviting me to bat cleanup. I don't play baseball well, but the one thing I do well is obey the time limits. So this will be a speech that fits. You've heard an incredible range of people speak here today, and one thing we can be certain of is that we can be proud of the choices we are offering America today, we Democrats. Our ideals are right, they push in the right direction of justice, and they will rally millions behind us. But we must speak openly and honestly about how incomplete we are. There are millions like us who rally to celebrate our party. There are millions who rally to celebrate the other party too, but these millions added together are still but a fraction of America. The biggest political party in America is none of the above. Most of America has turned away from politics. Most has given up on democracy, and who could really blame them? America looks to her government and sees not themselves reflected in what Congress does, but someone else. They see not a Congress bending over backwards to answer the calls of average voters. They see a Congress bending over backwards to answer the calls of their funders. Indeed, we know this. The political scientists have shown us this, that what our Congress does has no relation to the views of the average voter. Our Congress, our democracy, is responsive to the few, not to the many. And how could it be otherwise when 400 families have given half the money in this election cycle so far? Now, we cannot ignore this truth. We cannot pretend it's okay just to rally us. We must think bigger than that. We must aspire to more than just winning an election. We must win, but we must win in a way that gives America a reason to believe that they could get their democracy back. We must win with a commitment that would make the promises of these campaigns, the promise to address income inequality, to take on Wall Street, to pass climate change legislation, the promise to honor the children murdered at Sandy Hook by passing even the most modest background check legislation credible. Because these promises are not credible now. They inspire us, they give us hope, but until we fix this democracy, they are but dreams. And I fear we will lose a generation from this democracy if we once again promise the moon, but deliver just partisan stalemate. Almost 8 years ago, Barack Obama said this in Philadelphia: if we're not willing to take up that fight, then real change that will make a lasting difference in the lives of ordinary Americans, will keep getting blocked by the defenders of the status quo. His words were true then. His words are true now. We must take up this fight to get a democracy back, to claim its fundamental principle, the equality of citizens, because if we could achieve that equality, we could crack the corruption that holds Washington hostage. We would make it possible to solve the problems that we must address, and we could then say with integrity and truth that Black lives matter in America, because in America, all citizens are equal. But the truth is that fight is not partisan. As I walked the length of this state in the footsteps of an extraordinary woman, Granny D, in January, twice, I didn't meet Republicans. I didn't meet Democrats. I met citizens. The people who raced out of their house in 0-degree weather to greet us didn't offer us secret party handshakes. They offered us thanks. Because all of them, conservatives and liberals alike, desperately wanted a democracy that they felt represented them. We must speak to them, to those citizens first. We must make restoring their democracy our first task, not on some day, but on day one. Not just one promise among many, but the one that everybody knows will be achieved. Because as much as we like our party, as much as we like a particular candidate, as much as we like the idea of winning an election, we must love our country first. And if we let ourselves get trapped, on this partisan field, we will have failed that first love. For America's enemy is not a political party. America's enemy is not even the terrorists living in caves. America's enemy is the apathy and hopelessness and frustrated anger that has grown within America about the one institution we were once most proud of, this democracy. We Democrats have an extraordinary opportunity. It is we, and only we, who could rally America, all of America, to fixing this democracy by establishing this equality first, so that citizens of America from Ferguson to Philadelphia, and the Americans who should be citizens from the Central Valley of California to the streets of Miami, have a reason to believe in all the hope that the extraordinary candidates that you've seen here today promise. That opportunity is our responsibility. Our party was not born as the party of equality. We can make it so now. We did not fight for equal democracy a century ago. We can fight for it now. But we made equality our cause 50 years ago, and we must do it again. We must elevate this debate to that great and moral ideal, because only then could we inspire enough of America to look up from their machines and to listen and to respond. And we need America to respond if we're going to do any of the great and hard things that we know we must still do. Let us be the party that Martin Luther King taught Bobby Kennedy to dream of. Because what will be left of this democracy if we're not that party? Thank you, New Hampshire Democrats. Thank you, Citizens First. Thank you very much.
I want to start by acknowledging that we're here on the territory of the Mississauga New Credit, and also acknowledge the incredible leadership of Canada's First Peoples, First Nations, in fighting for a better world, in refusing to be sacrifice zones, in being our water keepers and our carbon keepers, fighting to keep the carbon in the ground that will destabilize life on Earth if we burn it at the rates that the people in these office towers would like to. This has been an incredible lineup of speakers. I want to thank you all, Wanda, Jody, Hassan, Melina, and Jerry in advance. This is a remarkable coalition. You know, I've had the incredible privilege of traveling around the world and meeting with activists, with unions, with politicians in many different countries who are focusing on climate change. And I want to tell you that what you're seeing here in terms of a coalition of grassroots groups representing the most marginalized people in our city, the people treated as disposable, representing the First Nations people of this country, fighting extractive projects at the grassroots, and the largest private sector union in this country representing workers at the heart of the fossil fuel economy, understanding that we have key differences, but what unites us is greater than that. And that's why we're coming together. What you're seeing are the first steps towards a new kind of climate movement. And it's a climate movement that recognizes that what unites us is stronger than divides us, and also that time is too short to allow those divisions to keep us from building the kind of coalitions that will safeguard life on Earth. So this is a very exciting moment. I believe it's a historic moment, and I'm so proud to be a part of it. I'm also speaking here as a board member of 350.org, which is one of the organizations that has worked very hard to bring together this coalition, and I want to acknowledge my colleagues at 350 for their hard work. And also in kickstarting the incredible fossil fuel divestment movement that Jody is a part of. And I think the time is now. Canadians are clearly getting tired of the fossil fuel roller coaster. Tired of being told that we have to sacrifice our environmental protections and our international standing when times for industry are good. We're tired too of seeing our budgets for social programs slashed and livelihoods destroyed when times for industry are bad. It turns out we sacrifice on the upside and we sacrifice on the downside. We're tired of seeing the super profits cause the degradation of Indigenous lands, workers' safety, and immigrants' rights during those boom years, and we're tired of seeing reduced profits used as the excuse for mass layoffs, for broken contracts, for lowered safety standards, and increased racism against immigrants during the bust years. We're tired of having a petrocurrency that destroys manufacturing when times are up. We're tired of picking up the pieces when times are down. We're tired of the huge physical costs of digging up and burning this much carbon. Tired of the polluted rivers, the exploding oil trains, the extreme weather linked to climate change. We are tired too of the merger between our government and the extractive sector. Tired of having a prime minister who bullies other nations into taking our oil and build our pipelines when they don't want it. Tired of a Department of Indian Affairs that pushes relentlessly to extinguish Indigenous rights in order to pave the way for more mines and more pipelines. Tired of a Department of Foreign Affairs that acts as an adjunct of the mining sector that is infamous from Guatemala to Greece for its violations of human rights. Tired of having our national interest equated with a sector whose business model is to dig up more carbon than is compatible with a stable climate. Now that the price of oil is low, we can see that the price of all of this is simply too high. Like the people of Alberta, the epicenter of the fossil fuel roller coaster, many Canadians are ready to get off this reckless ride. But you know what? We want more than the politics of rejection. I think more than anything else, we're tired of being tired and we're ready to be inspired. We look around the world and we see that a far better economy is possible. We see that we have been lied to for 2 decades of a Harper government that has told Canadians they have to choose between caring about the climate, caring about the environment, and having good jobs and having social programs. It turns out that this was a complete lie because we're losing it all. We're losing it all. Workers are losing their jobs in the tens of thousands, and we're sacrificing the climate too. We're allowing our human rights in this country to be further degraded. The costs are simply too high. If we look at a country like Germany, we see that when there is real political leadership that listens to the grassroots, a serious response to climate change and a move to decentralized, community-controlled renewable energy can create deeper democracy. It has created 400,000 jobs in Germany. This is the real triple win. We can do this in Canada, but we lack the leadership. A few weeks ago, on Earth Day in New York, Bill de Blasio, the mayor of New York, announced his vision for climate justice for his city, which he said would bring 900,000 people out of poverty by 2025 by combining the demand for a living wage, investments in transit that will reduce commute times, and serious climate action. So we're tired of being divided. That's why you see this slogan here on these panels, because we won't take it anymore. And we don't just want off this roller coaster. We're ready for the next economy. We know the leadership isn't coming from the political class, so it's going to come from below. And we're going to see the first examples of it this summer. It's going to happen a few days after the Pope launches his climate encyclical, another example of the kind of change that's happening. And I just want to thank all the organizers and Clay, and over to you, Jerry.